February 2022. And the world gets to see this huge Russian buildup on the Russian-Ukraine border. And then they go in on February 23rd, 2022. And you have the buildup of this column. And the whole world gets to see it because space and commercial space has exploded. And it's this $1 trillion sector where we get to see what's going on real time on the ground in a place where I'm pretty confident Vladimir Putin didn't want the world to be looking. And the Biden administration, perhaps too late, but was able to actually disclose a lot of this stuff with their capabilities early on to try to do something that had a mixed result, deterrence by disclosure. But all of this kind of led in high relief for the average American that space really matters and it's different. Anand, tell us about why you, somebody who is a software technologist, is in the space field now, and my sense is it's a big part of what you're doing at Palantir, AI in space, and kind of build it out from the picture I sent from February 2022.
Yeah, it's crazy because February 2022 in some ways was the culmination of so much investment and excitement and technological work in space. And we got to see it actually manifest all at once. But the interesting thing, and really the thing that pulled me into space, and then what has really driven a lot of the work from our frontier teams, was actually the users we're used to sitting with. The mission planners and intelligence analysts we'd spent time with over the last decade. And I was spending time with them even last year. And they said something very interesting. They keep saying, hey, we're having a hard time monitoring all of these Russian positions in all these places. Right? That's the many decades.
These are when you talk about, people in government who you're supporting, right, across, let's call it the Space Force or other national agencies, right? This is what people you're talking to.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting. It's the national agency, so an intelligence analyst at a three-letter agency, you can imagine, but also a special operator somewhere, right? So somebody at the forward edge of the battlefield, somebody at the 82nd Airborne Division, right, who's on the crisis watch, ready to deploy anywhere on the planet. They have to be ready to go. And they were saying, we need to have as much understanding of where the Russians are before we go anywhere, right? So this is months before. And we started to look, and as we looked at the space, we looked at all these fantastic satellite companies, we looked at all the satellites that were being launched, we looked at the great technology coming from SpaceX that was putting these up every single week. And we said, wait a second, the problem isn't the satellites. There's so many satellites now. The thing that pulled us into space as an industry was there was way more imagery and way more capacity to image the planet than anyone knew what to do with. And I sort of sat here and I said, wait a second, I have an analyst I'm sitting next to who wants more insight about Russian forces. And I have way too many satellites generating way too many images. And there's like sort of a question mark in between the photos and that analyst. And that's where we always would plug in